Hi, everyone. My name is Aya Yoshioka. I'm a portfolio consulting director and senior investment strategist here at Wealth Enhancement. Thanks so much for joining me today. Aren't you all glad that we closed the books on April? But can you believe that we just closed the month of April and the S&P 500 was only down 0.7% for the month of April? Doesn't seem that way, right? We all know that we've seen a nearly 20% decline from the February 19th highs in the S&P 500. But the lows were reached on April 8th, at least so far. And since those lows, we have seen a 12% rally in the S&P 500. So what has helped? Well, we know that tariffs and trade policy dominated the conversation in the early days of April, really fueling all of this uncertainty that we saw. But we are now in the midst of earnings season. And even though we haven't seen the uncertainty completely go away, we have seen some great insights from great companies in the S&P 500. So what have we seen? Well, generally, earnings have been slightly better than expected, just given how poor sentiment was coming into earnings season. And we saw some strength out of many of the banks early on. But over the last week, we've saw 6 of the Mag 7 companies report. And I'll give a quick little rundown of what we've seen on those 6 companies. So Alphabet was the first to report within the Mag 7, and they posted a solid quarter with double-digit revenue growth in both their search or their Google segment, as well as YouTube. And we also saw 28% year over year revenue growth out of Google's cloud segment. And they showed very strong profitability, so nice cost constraints on Google's behalf there. Microsoft also posted a better than expected quarter, and they saw strength in their cloud segment as well. They posted growth in Azure, their cloud segment, of 35% in the first quarter. And they also guided second quarter revenue growth to be near that same number, around that 35% in terms of year over year revenue growth. Very strong numbers out of Microsoft. And they noted that AI demand is growing slightly faster than they had initially expected. Meta, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, had a great quarter as well. And this is a little bit more difficult versus some of the others because expectations may have been a little bit more elevated. The bar was a little bit higher as they had shown a really strong quarter back in January. And they delivered solid results with revenue growth of 16% year over year and operating margins of 41%. Amazon's quarter was slightly more in line with Wall Street estimates, but their 2Q guidance fell short of Wall Street estimates. And I think this is the company that is impacted most by the tariff situation, especially on the retail side, even though profitability is really tied to their cloud segment as well, also known as AWS. Apple's quarter was in line, and they did see a decline in sales in China of about 2%. But overall, sales were up 5% for Apple in the first quarter. Apple also announced plans for a fairly large buyback, increasing their buyback program by $100 billion. Tesla missed their quarter by a pretty wide margin, both on revenues and on earnings. But the stock actually has rallied since they reported. Again, expectations were low, and Elon Musk has pledged to sort of re-engage and recommit to Tesla and spend more time at Tesla alongside sort of their future endeavors, such as robo-taxis. That's the recap for 6 out of the Mag 7 names in the S&P 500. And we will get the last of the Mag 7, NVIDIA, in the coming weeks. One last point before I leave, we did see economic data for the first quarter on April 30th. And the first quarter GDP estimate was for a contraction of 0.3% on an annualized basis. We did see a surge in imports, partly as a result of some of the front running related to tariffs. But consumer spending was actually positive. It was still growing around 2%. And so we did see some strength out of the consumer despite the tariff situation. Thank you again for listening to me today, and we hope to continue to provide these videos to you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your financial advisor or our investment management team. Thanks so much. Have a great one.